Over the course of the offseason, Philadelphia Phillies GM Dave Dombrowski said to the media that his future Hall of Famer, Bryce Harper, was still a quote-unquote quality and all-star caliber player, but in 2025 he didn't have an elite season like he's had in years past, and that we'd all have to wait and see if he was going to become elite again or continue to just be good. He followed this up with, "I don't think he's content with the year he had," and again, it wasn't a bad year. But when you think of Bryce Harper, you're thinking elite, one of the top 10 players in baseball, and I don't think it fit into that category. This obviously ruffles some feathers in the baseball space, as you'd expect when a GM directly addresses a player's performance in the media in such a negative way, especially when it's basically the face of your franchise. And it seems like these statements did indeed bother Harper himself, who said, as relayed via John Clark on Twitter today, this.
I mean, I don't get motivated by that kind of stuff. You know, for me, it was kind of wild, the whole situation of that happening. I think the big thing for me was, you know, when we first met with this organization, it was, hey, you know, we're always going to keep things in-house, and we expect you to do the same thing. And so, you know, when that didn't happen, kind of took me for a run a little bit. You know, I don't need to be motivated to be great. For Dave to come out and say those things, it's kind of wild to me still.
I think he captured the whole thing pretty well. And on top of the principle, which I of course agree with, I'm also going to show you some numbers that back up how crazy of a statement this really was from Dombrowski. Since the start of the 2022 season, so not even considering his last MVP campaign, Harper's ranked 5th in the big leagues among players who've played at least 500 games, in overall OPS, 6th in OPS plus and on base percentage, 14th in batting average, and top 30 in home runs, despite missing some significant stretches of time over this period as well. In fact, the only real knock on his game has been his overall value, which at 14.1 is tied with Brandon Nimmo for 35th, less than guys like Steven Kwan, Dalton Varsho, JP Crawford, Ian Happ, and Andres Gimenez. But WAR is a fickle stat that heavily penalizes first basemen, which is primarily what Bryce has been over this stretch. And again, he has played just over 500 games, in comparison to many of the other players in front of him having around 600. Regardless, he has been a star over the course of this stretch, even if perhaps calling him a superstar at this point might be a little aggressive. But here's the thing, and I think this is one of the most insulting parts of what Dave did. The assertion that last year was a disappointment. If you were to actually disregard seasons in which Bryce has played less than 100 games, his 2025 totals of an 844 OPS, 129 OPS plus, 487 slug, and 3.1 BWAR would all be in the middle rankings of his career. In fact, besides the outlier campaigns that were 2015 and 2021, he has been closer to averaging a 130 OPS plus and 850 OPS throughout his playing days on a year-to-year basis. So to act like last year was some sort of massive step down was a bit misleading, and in my opinion, harsh. He has been a fantastic hitting perennial all-star, who's probably closer to Freddie Freeman as a player than prime Mike Trout or Aaron Judge. But hey, I would still consider Freeman a quote-unquote elite player, and both him and Harper are undoubtedly future Hall of Famers.
Alright everybody, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and if you did, consider checking out any of these other videos on your screen right now for other content just like this. Also, if you ever see anything you'd like to see me detail in the video, feel free to reach out to my email, basebpoet@gmail.com, and if I end up using your idea, I'll give you a shout out. Thanks for watching, have a great rest of your day.